26. Pablo, good to see how you doing. Kamal, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? Why is it still saying? Okay, it's very, very odd, but also sorry for starting a bit late. It's because Restream decided to log me out, so I had to log back in. And then I realized that for some odd little reason, it's still stating that this is episode 127, when in reality it isn't. It's just stuck on 127. Something weird is going on with Restream. But at least I can see the comments this time around, which is a good sign. Jim, good to see you. How you doing? Kamal, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? Hi, Miles. Why is crypto dipping daily? Due to the new CPI data that came out, is what's basically going on inside the market space. The one that I revealed yesterday. Market up, down, or sideways. For the time being, down sideways, but we are going to be going up on the uptrend after the down sideways once the CPI data starts balancing out. Good evening, Professor, from your student, and also good evening, rest of the XRP Army. Thank you, brother. Good to see you. How you doing? Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles and family. Troy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Woodhouse, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Mike, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Shelly, good to see you as well. Morning, how you doing? Did you get some rest? A little bit of rest? Yes, definitely. I did. Good to see you as well, Shelly. Lena, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Please check. I'll check it after the live show. No problem. The messages. It says 129 on YouTube. It says 129, but for some oddly reason, on X it still says 127 on the episodes. Very weird. Happy Pisces, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? How's it going? It's going good, Woodhouse. When can we see up? Oh, once the CPI data starts balancing out. Hello, Miles and family. Good to see you as well. Comatose, how you doing? What LM will be by the end of 2025? Interesting question. By the end of 2025. Okay. XLM should be somewhere around the $1 to $3 mark, $5 mark, depending on how well the adoption rate is by the end of 2025. I've been good, thanks. Woodhouse, let's go. That would explain the different episode numbers yesterday. Yeah, on YouTube it says 128 is the episode, 129 is the episode, but on X it still says 127. I don't know what's happening with Restream, but at least we can see the comment section now. Just that little part needs to be fixed. I've been good. Let's go, Woodhouse. Evening. Good evening, Miles and all CMF. Free and Feather. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? By the way, thank you so much to everyone on X right now that's retweeting this live show and liking this live show as well. Thanks so much to everyone on YouTube that's also liking this live show as well. Now, on tonight's live show, we have quite a mixture of topics to go through. Mostly banking news, financial news, in other words. Messi, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and all CMF. Free and Feather. Let's go. How you doing? Why adapting taking so long? Why is the adoption taking so long? Well, because due to the regulations. If we had regulations come in at a much more faster pace, we would have a much more faster adoption rate. Unfortunately, the regulations are coming in one by one, and it's coming in a scattered way, where we have some regulations in the EU, some in Tokyo, some in Japan, some in Singapore, some in the EU, some in Hong Kong, some in Dubai, the UAE, and so on. We don't have a full list of regulations. We have some regulations somewhere and some regulations nowhere. So the faster we get regulations, the faster the adoption rate. Hi, Miles. Let's go, Messi. It's like CoinStock. It's like CoinStock in first gear. It's like the coin is stuck in first gear. I'm going on holiday tomorrow. I might not make it to the live. No problem. Woodhouse, that's good. Vacation is always needed. What's bigger, XRP Ledger or XRP? That's an interesting question. They're both on the same level. Nobody's ever asked me what's bigger, XRP Ledger or XRP. It's an interesting question, I'll be honest. But they're both as important as each other. The XRP ledger is extremely important for the financial system, and the XRP token itself is very important as an intermediary, so middleman. So they're both as important as each other. Hello, good old Brian. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Some saying XRP ledger doesn't need XRP, and JP Morgan saying XRP is volatile. JP Morgan is also the same person. Well, JP Morgan is also the same people that said that cryptocurrencies are used by scammers. They're also the same people that said Bitcoin is used by criminals. And they're also the same person that said cryptocurrencies are Ponzi schemes. And now JP Morgan holds Bitcoin ETFs from BlackRock's IBIT, and they also have their own token by the name of Onyx on the Ethereum chain. So not for public use, only for commercial use, but corporate sector only. But yeah, you can't take JP Morgan's word for it. You can take it with, don't take it as gospel, is what I would say from these corporates. They say one thing, and then behind the scenes, they're always doing something else. DeFi is the best OTC digital asset stock. Check it out ASAP. Spread the word. Stephen, how you doing? Some saying XRP, and regarding some saying XRP Ledger doesn't need XRP. XRP is the gas token for XRP Ledger. XRP Ledger can survive without XRP, but XRP needs XRP Ledger. Well, XRP needs XRP Ledger because it operates on the XRP Ledger. That's what's common sense. And the other way around, it's a gas token. So, welcome to the CMF live show. If you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF live show. On this live show, I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations. And the disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And on tonight's live show, we have mixture of news to go through, but I'm going to give you the gist of what we're going to be talking about, the topics we're going to go through on tonight's live show. So we are going to be talking about some data and figure points regarding the institutional investors that are inside the crypto space, once again, from Q2 reports. We're also going to be going through the news regarding IBM and their new plans on expansions in the crypto space, in the blockchain space in general. We're also going to be talking about a Fed member who has came out and answered many questions on the key question, which being, are we expecting rate cuts anytime soon? So we're going to go through that on tonight's live show as well, because rate cuts will definitely impact the crypto space. They also impact the stock market in general as well. We're also going to be talking about a new ETF that's coming out and is linked, or is already out, and is linked to MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings are being turned into an ETF. It's going to be the most volatile ETF inside the whole market space. We're also going to be talking about the state of Wisconsin on tonight's live show as well. The state of Wisconsin Investment Board increases their IBIT holdings to nearly $2.9 million in 2.9 million shares. And this is based on their pension funds. So the city of Wisconsin is actually using pension funds to do this. The state of Wisconsin. We're also going to be talking about Binance on tonight's live show. So yesterday I revealed on this live show that Binance has reopened its doors to Brazil. And they paid a very small $1.7 million fine to Brazil's regulators to reopen their doors in Brazil. Now they're also going to be reopening their doors in India. So Binance is getting quite a bit of green lights. That's mainly due to CZ being completely out of the picture, 2 new CEOs that are WorldConf all members, and also not being sued again by the SEC, by the CFTC. Now, we're also going to be talking about on the topic of XRP on tonight's live show as well. So Binance decided to tweet out some data points regarding XRP in their recent victory that they did have. We're also going to be talking about a perspective from Ripple's top lawyer on tonight's live show as well. Ripple's top lawyer has came out and said he wouldn't be surprised if the SEC tries to appeal Ripple Labs. We're also going to go through the news topic on stablecoins on tonight's live show, but a perspective from JP Morgan. JP Morgan has decided to come out and bash on USDT, you could say. So we're going to go through that on tonight's live show as well. We're also going to be talking about Apple on tonight's live show, iPhones in general, because iPhone's new NFC update enables crypto payments. So you can very soon be able to use iPhones, Apple Pay in other words, with crypto payments. You can tap your iPhone with Apple Pay and use crypto payments. So we're going to go through that as well in tonight's live show. It's a new update coming to all iPhones for their NFC chips. So before we go through any of that news, once again, welcome to the CMF Live Show. If you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome. And if you're a regular, let's go CMF. The disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So the live show has officially started now. And also, thank you so much to our sponsors on these live shows. If you want to get yourself a Tangent wallet to keep your assets safe, your crypto assets safe, use code CryptoMiles for 10% off. And if you want to, go towards any sort of exchanges to use and in terms of storing, buying, and trading, but obviously read their disclaimers, have an understanding of trading before you do any of those things. And this is not financial advice, but BingX Exchange, if you sign up to that exchange, you get 100 USDT through KYC, just being a member of this live show. So thank you so much for BingX Exchange, and thank you so much to Tangent for our sponsors. Now, the first news on tonight's live show is regarding the institutional investors coming inside the crypto space even more. We have actual data points to go through on that matter. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we were. Let's see where we were. We were here. So will XRP reach $10 by 2025? Is what I would say is consider variable change. Hey Miles, how you doing? Daniel, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Hit the like. Let's go Messi. It's like putting gas into a car and it comes out the bottom of the car. The car is not going to go anywhere long. Yeah, pretty much. Germany issues arrest warrant for Ukraine suspects, IDs as in connection to Nord Stream pipeline. Okay. What I want to know, how can one borrow against XRP and then have money to pay off the loan without selling the XRP? If you borrow against any crypto assets, in this sense, XRP, if you borrow against your XRP from a legitimate place, for example, HSBC Bank, your question being, if you borrow your XRP, how would you have money to pay off the loan? Well, the money that you get after you borrow against your XRP, you would have to use it for some sort of ROI, so return on investment. If you use that money wisely, the borrowed money, if you use it wisely to make more money with it, you can pay back the original loan and borrow again on your XRP and use it as collateral. Or when the price goes higher, so for example, if you borrow from you use your XRP as collateral and the price is here, XRP goes up in value, you can borrow again, pay off the original loan. Hi Miles, George, good to see you. How you doing? So once you get that borrowed money, you would have to do some sort of investments with it to pay it back. Hi Miles and CMF family. Is it time to turn on my CMF TV? Good to see you guys. TMC, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? What do you think about the MPOX? Is history going to repeat itself? Yes, it is. So there's this new thing going around inside. The World Economic Forum has decided to introduce a new type of virus called MPOX, is what they're calling it. Originally called monkeypox, but now they're calling it MPOX. Is this a cycle for repeating history with the whole COVID scenario? Yes, it definitely is. Are they going to exaggerate MPOX all over the news? Yes. Are they going to put fear in people's hearts? Yes. Are they probably going to force people to wear masks again? Yes. Mandate people to stay in their homes? Probably yes. Are people going to fall for it? The majority will. Unfortunately, we live in a world where the intelligent group is about this much and the follower group is about this much. So when you have an intelligent group, which is about this much, who will say no to MPOX, and then you have a follower group, which is about this much. Unfortunately, the follower group is going to outweigh everybody else. So once they do release this exaggeration of MPOX all over the news, people are going to line up for their new vaccines. People are going to start wearing their masks again, depending on how much they exaggerate this news. Interestingly enough, for some odd reason, viruses always come around when it's the presidential election. Otherwise, viruses don't come around at all. It's almost like the virus knows we're having a presidential election. The new virus needs to be out soon. So yeah, there's this new situation going around regarding MPOX. Are people going to fall for it? Probably yes. I'll guarantee you. You know what? I'll bet again. Once again, I will bet both of my lungs that once they exaggerate MPOX all over the news, people are going to be lining up for new vaccines. I will bet you my lungs. The majority of people on this planet are not very smart at all. Some people pretend to be smart and some people are actually intelligent. There's a difference, big difference. So I'll bet you both my lungs that once this mpox situation over exaggerates, people will be lining up. You will see with your own two eyes people lining up to get a new vaccine to protect themselves, even though the previous vaccine never worked because it was an imaginary disease. Now, so let's see where we were. Apple has too many eyes and too many ears. Never mind giving them your crypto information to use it. I'm just saying. I'm with you, JP, 100%. You can stake your XRP as well to massive income too. You can stake your XRP as well, correct? To earn quite a bit on your XRP, yep. And also other cryptocurrencies as well. But please make sure when you do try to stake any sort of cryptocurrencies, it's with a legitimate platform. A lot of people would use platforms that are not regulated in some sort of a way to get higher returns on their staked coins, which can always go south. So, for example, Binance Exchange will offer you 7% on your staked crypto assets, but then you will go to a DeFi space and they're offering you 1,000%. Obviously, the 7% is the ideal choice because it's legitimate. The 1,000% they're offering in a DeFi store is going to be taking your cryptocurrencies and running with it. So when it comes to staking, use legitimate sources, legitimate platforms. Binance, for example, Coinbase, if you want to stake your crypto assets, Uphold. Don't go beyond Binance, Uphold, Crypto.com, Coinbase, Kraken, and so on, or even BingX Exchange. Don't go beyond those. Crazy. Yep, definitely that, Denise. Oh, crumbs. If we have to stay at home, my business will collapse. Well, in times of crisis, you can always make more money, different types of ways of making money. Hello, Miles and CMF. How's everyone doing today? I'm doing great, Scott. How you doing? How you been? Is it all cryptos or just pay with USDC? Interesting question. Regarding Apple, it's going to start with USDC. So all cryptos eventually. Is it real though, Miles? The mpox situation? No, it's not real. Do I need to get an mpox vaccine and a booster jab that turns me into COVID? We'll have to see. Time will tell if everybody needs some sort of vaccine updates. I know COVID was just cold and a piece of plastic told you that you can have a cold, but this mpox looks bad. Is it real? No, it's definitely not real. COVID gave me the ideas, and now I have myself looking at curry. I meant to do this later on to help pay the loan back or buy a property and receive rent to pay loan. Yeah, real estate is always the best option if you want to. If you borrow money against your crypto assets and you're thinking of a way to make some money and pay that loan off, real estate is always the best option. Correct. COVID was an IQ test. COVID was an IQ test. Okay, my thoughts. Any thoughts on SUI, XDC, NXRA, CPOL 4, and MBD? No thoughts on MBD 4, CPOL, and NXRA, mainly because I don't know what their recent developments are, to give you a better perspective on it. But thoughts on SUI, good. It's doing some decent developments with itself. And XDC, obviously, R3 Quantum. It has a massive future ahead of itself. So, first news on tonight's live show is majority of institutional investors. Good time to bring in CBDCs? Yes. Regarding this whole mpox situation, it's definitely going to be a good way to bring in CBDCs, 100%. How are your parents, Miles? How are you today? Business? And I am okay. I'm doing okay. Let's go, Scott. Business good. Parents good. Thanks so much for asking. I rejected the vaccine. I knew it was. It doesn't take 2 weeks to make a vaccine. It takes 10 years. Facts. So, first news on tonight's live show is majority of institutional investors held or increased their Bitcoin ETF positions in a Q2 report. So reports have came out, actual data points have came out on what was the exact movements from institutions when the market dropped. They brought anything they could get their hands on, pretty much. As the retail section was panicking and jumping out, same scenario is going on here. Some people are in some sort of panic stages right now because of the CPI data. But you shouldn't be. These are times for sales, and sales equals to buying. If you don't have money, holding was always the better option. No financial advice. Now, Bitwise. Bitwise reports US-based institutional investors continue to demonstrate strong support for Bitcoin through spot ETFs, with around 66% either maintaining or increasing their holdings. This trend comes amidst market volatility and decline in prices during Q2. Surge in institutional filings Bitwise Chief Investment Officer Matt highlighted this trend in an August 15 post, noting a rise in the number of filings associated with spot Bitcoin ETFs. The institutions are still coming. Total filings are up, Matt commented, referring to the 1,924 holders to the ETF pairings recorded across all Bitcoin funds during Q2. This marks a 30% increase from the 1,479 pairings reported in Q1. There's about 1,924 institutional holders in Bitcoin ETFs, which is a ridiculous amount of institutions, and they're climbing. They used to be sitting at 1,479 institutional investors. Now we're looking at about 1,924 institutional investors. Yeah, the institutions are definitely coming. It's about 30% markup. Although these figures reflect some overlap due to individual institutions holding positions in multiple ETFs, the consistent growth in filings indicates a rise in such participations. Matt's analysis suggests that these investors are not easily shaken by market downtrends. The institutions that had invested in spot Bitcoin ETFs during Q1, 44% increased their holdings in Q2, while 22% maintained their positions. Meanwhile, only 21% reduced their exposure and 13% exited entirely. If you thought institutional investors would panic at the first sign of volatility, the data suggests otherwise. Yeah, because institutions don't panic. They're in the business of making money. And if you're in the business of making money, you're never going to get scared of money. Of losing money, in other words, because you're in the business of making money. So losing money doesn't really scare you because it's all about risk. Now, hedge funds continue to be significant players in the spot Bitcoin ETF market space as well, with major names like Millennium, Schoenfield, Boothbay, and Kapala prominently featured among the top holders of Bitcoin ETFs. However, the filings also reveal a diverse range of investors, including advisors, family offices, and select institutional investors, all contributing, increasing the adoption of spot Bitcoin ETFs. ETFs are a big tent that attracts a wide variety of investors. It's kind of great to see millennials nested upon against the state of Wisconsin in these ETF filings as well, Hugin said. Looking ahead, Matt expressed hope that the wealth managers and pension funds will represent an increasingly larger share of their market space. Major institutional investors' holdings. Meanwhile, the Q2 filings also reveal that some of the world's largest financial institutions are expanding their exposure to spot Bitcoin ETFs. Morgan Stanley reportedly holding 5.5 million shares of iShares Bitcoin Trust, valued at around $188 million. This position secures the investment banking company at the spot among the top five, essentially fund holders of IBIT, BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. In its filings, it also discussed smaller investments in a range of other Bitcoin-related ETFs, including Valkyrie's ETF Trust, Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin Fund, and Bitwise's Spot Bitcoin ETF. Similarly, Goldman Sachs reported substantial holdings in spot Bitcoin ETFs with more than $213 million invested in IBIT shares and other funds, and Goldman Sachs' portfolio includes nearly 7 million shares of iShares Bitcoin Trust and significant positions in the Fidelity Wise Origin Fund, Invesco Galaxy, and other ETFs as well. So, more data on the point of, are institutions still inside the market space? Are more institutions coming inside the market space, or are they leaving the market space and the state we're in right now? Yeah, they're doubling down. Even the Q2 reports suggest that the institutions are doubling down on their positions, with a small percentage of an exit, but a 30% increase on doubling, 30% increase on more investors coming inside the market space. But also the ones that are in the market space already from the previous Q1 are doubling down their positions. But 30% increase on institutional investors so far. So all these crypto platforms that were saying the next clientele coming inside the crypto space are institutional investors, they weren't lying, because 30% markup, it shows, and it's still climbing. Now, IBM is doing incredible movements inside the blockchain space, if I would have to say. Inside the blockchain space and the AI space, IBM is doing incredible movements, mainly with investments. I mean, they're not the type of person to go and build. They mainly do the investments. And IBM is also a partner of Metaco and Ripple, and they're building a cold storage wallet that I revealed months ago. And they had some other essentially announcements to make regarding partnerships. IBM partnering with HSBC Bank regarding cold storage wallets as well, regarding tokenization purposes. IBM has been partnering with AI technology companies as well. And now IBM has decided to expand on their plans into Malaysia, because IBM says that this is pretty much becoming a massive tech hub, and they're going to be investing millions of dollars into their projects that are going to be outsourcing from Malaysia. So, also just to point out, the Blockchain Association magazine did a list of companies that are going to be ruling inside the blockchain space from number 1 to number 10. And IBM was number 1 as the company that's going to be the most revolutionary in the blockchain era as the years to come. So IBM plans expansions in Malaysia to leverage the booming tech industry. International Business Machines Corporations, IBM, essentially expects significant growth opportunities in Malaysia. The country has witnessed a recent surge in data center investments by various tech investors. The New York-based artificial intelligence and hybrid cloud service providers, ASIN, General Manager Catherine Lin, said at a conference in Singapore that the company is prioritizing the reinforcements of its private collaboration network. The company said that its efforts aims to implement initiatives to advance the country's digital infrastructure, according to a report by Burnham. Now, Malaysia is adapting essentially AI across all industries. Catherine Lin said that it is interesting to see how the Malaysian government is focusing on improving the country's business infrastructure. She was speaking to the publication on the sidelines of IBM Think 2024 conference, and she said, "When we consider Malaysia's outlook, the adoption of AI has already started across all industries." She said Malaysia's economic growth is unparalleled to any other essentially economy out there, and the country has the political stability required for smoother business operations. IBM is looking for what opportunities might come ahead in the coming years, and said essentially Catherine Lin, and the 2-day conference, which ends on August 15th, will examine possibilities for how artificial intelligence will benefit ASEAN's economic growth. Catherine Lin said that IBM considers the increasing number of data centers to be the proof of explosive growth in Malaysia's technology sector, which is quite motivating for the company. This really shows that the value chain of economic growth is evident, added Catherine Lin. Other tech giants also investing heavily in the region of Malaysia as well. Catherine Lin emphasized the Malaysian government contributing to the promoting economic growth and drawing foreign direct investments as well. She also noted that IBM will align its tech offerings with Malaysia's national plans. According to IBM's ASEAN manager, the company has many investment opportunities in the country, various technology portfolios as well. She highlighted the firm is thrilled to be involved in the process of generative AI adoption in the data centers across Malaysia and to push technology forward. According to Catherine Lin, it is important that technology firms like IBM continue to work on hybrid cloud-based AI services to facilitate customers and users in Malaysia and be a part of the digital transition that's happening over there. Hybrid cloud integrates private clouds with public clouds and on-premises infrastructures to establish a cohesive, adaptable, and cost-effective IT framework. Singapore's Minister for Digital Developments and Information, Ms. Josephine Tee, also spoke at the IBM Think 2024 conference as well. In her remarks, she said that the last month the government started public consultations for guidelines and a companion guide for secure AI systems. This step is taken to ensure that AI in Singapore ecosystems is safe for mass use. The minister said that the US is one of their closest allies in AI technology, and both countries have accomplished much together. Previously in May, Google also pledged to invest $2 billion in Malaysia's data centers and cloud infrastructure as well. CEOs of Microsoft, Apple, and Nevada also visited various countries in Southeast Asia to announce their AI-related investments in the region. Amazon also pledged a heavy $9 billion in the regions of Malaysia, and it is important to remember that the firm chose Singapore to make the public announcement. Okay, so it seems like quite a lot of big heavyweight technology firms are heading to Southeast Asia to do mass investments, with Google doing a $2 billion investment in Malaysia for AI technology. With also Amazon doing the biggest investment of $9 billion, which is a ridiculous number to be doing in terms of investments, but they see a big profit margin happening in Malaysia, mainly because the Malaysian government is very lenient towards AI technology. They're actually implementing AI technology, as they said, in every industry, which is massive movements, honestly. So what I'm going to be doing as well, as the weeks go by, I'm going to be doing a little bit of research on Malaysia as well, just to see if any sort of blockchain projects pop out of Malaysia, genuine, legitimate blockchain projects that have backings and deep contracts, especially with the government of Malaysia. And I'll reveal them on this live show as well as we go along. So I'll definitely find and look into projects that are going to be developed essentially in Malaysia or out of Singapore that are going to have some sort of links to Google, Amazon, Nvidia, Apple, and so on regarding their investments, regarding their contracts, any sort of blockchain projects that do come out, and keeping people updated on that matter, because those are some big tech firms and those are some big spendings that they're doing on investments. So let's see what happens in the following weeks. But I'll definitely keep people updated on Malaysia and Singapore regarding those investments, on what they decide to build in terms of AI projects. Is it going to be blockchain AI projects or actual AI companies that you could probably later on enter an IPO in? Now, before anybody else. So, Fed member is the next news we're going to go for on tonight's live show. The Fed member, Bostic, answered the question of the 50 basis points rate cut. The biggest question that everybody keeps on asking is, are we going to have rate cuts? Because rate cuts do genuinely impact the market space, the crypto space, especially on a large scale. Apologies. So a Fed member was asked, are we going to be having rate cuts? A top Fed official expressed an openness to a rate cut in September and said timely action is needed to ease monetary policy aimed signs of cooling in the labor market. Raphael Bostic, president of the Atlanta Federal Reserve and the voting member of the Central Bank's interest rate setting committee, told the Financial Times that as inflation pressures ease, it is crucial for officials to consider their duty to maintain full employment. Now that inflation has come into a range, we need to look at the other side of the spectrum, and there we have seen the unemployment rate rise significantly from low levels. Bostic said, but it does make think about what is the appropriate timing is. And so I'm open to something happening in the terms of us taking action before the fourth quarter. So before the fourth quarter of this year, we could have a possibility of a rate cut. Bostic said that the risks are high for the Fed as it considers when and how quickly to ease policies. Waiting brings risk, and that's why we have to be extra careful, he said, because our policies move in both directions with a lag. We can't afford to be late. We have to act as soon as possible. The comments by the Atlanta Fed president support market expectations that the central bank could begin cutting interest rates in September for the first time since COVID-19 pandemics devastated the US economy in 2020. On Wednesday, the Bostic described the labor markets as weakening but not weak, noting that businesses in the southern US are pausing to hire rather than lay off workers. Asked whether the Fed would consider cutting interest rates by half a point rather than a quarter point if the labor market weakens faster than expected, Bostic said everything is on the table. If we see a deterioration that suggests that labor markets are going to collapse or could collapse, I would be very supportive of moving more assertively to minimize the amount of that pain. He added, but clarified that it is not on the current outlook. So we can have either, according to an official Fed member, asked many questions, we can either have an actual rate cut, which is going to be impacting the crypto market, and it's going to be happening before the fourth quarter. This is a perspective from the Feds themselves. So you can have perspectives from bank managers and executive board members of companies, which is just personal perspectives. But having a perspective from a Fed member gives you a better idea of where this is going to be going. So a possibility of having a rate cut is more higher when it comes from these types of people, from the actual Fed themselves. And it's going to be towards the end of the fourth quarter. We're going to be having a rate cut of a higher possibility. If we don't have an actual rate cut, we're going to have a mini rate cut, is what they're suggesting, which should not impact the crypto market that badly, but it will make the market a bit volatile when we do have that mini rate cut. But the actual rate cut will make the market volatile. Now, the next news to go from tonight's live show is regarding the SEC, and something new has happened. So, knowing Gary Gensler and the SEC, it is incredibly difficult to get a green light from the SEC or Gary Gensler. You would either have to sue them or just forget about it. So what's odd is that Gary Gensler and the SEC have green-lighted a new type of ETF. And it's from MicroStrategy. So SEC approves MSTX, a new ETF that's linked to MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings, has just been green-lighted. That's the most volatile Bitcoin ETF anybody could go for on the market space. It's taken the number one space for the most volatile ETF you can go for. Now, we're going to be talking about that. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section. This is a live Q&A as well. So if you have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you out. Let's see where we were inside the comment sections. But that is the next news we're going to talk about regarding MSTX, a new type of ETF that's just been green-lighted inside the crypto space, linked to MicroStrategy. They hold a ridiculous amount of Bitcoin. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we were. Hit a like for the best show on the internet and for the number one host. Thank you so much, Messi, for the kind words. Thanks so much to everyone that's liking this live show and retweeting this live show as well. XRP is about to do something special. There are too many scams out there. I agree. Evening, Miles and CMF. Manny, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening. Hey, Miles and CMF. Stormy, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been, Stormy? Miles, have you been saying since beginning of last year that we're going to have 2 more runs? We already had 1, and now we are going into the next one. Yes, it's brewing for the next one. As BTC has had its all-time high, then it has dropped and never reached those heights. And by next year, it will reach new highs. I am well placed into right crypto projects, so I'm not going to look at my portfolio until the near US elections in November. I will be hibernating. Why not? I mean, the elections are definitely going to be impacting the crypto markets and the stock market. I remember when I first started listening to you on TikTok, you mentioned that Asia is going to do well in the crypto world. I did. Let's go for remembering what I said as well when I used to do these live shows on TikTok. Has RSR got any potential? Got any potential? Sure. Does it have a major potential? We'll have to see how it plays out. But it has some potential, but there are other crypto projects that have a better potential than RSR. Do you think that ACH will reach the top 100s in the next 2 years? It is at 254 currently. Yes, in the next 2 years, is ACH, the crypto project, going to be reaching the top 100? Definitely, it has to. Because of the amount of money transfer licenses it has, because we're going to utility, because the next clientele is institutional investors, it has to. Especially next 2 years. It definitely has to. Now, the new type of investment that's just hit the market space. The SEC approves MSTX, a new ETF that's linked to MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings. The US Securities and Exchange Commission has approved the first ever ETF targeting MicroStrategy's, essentially Bitcoin holdings, MSTX, offering investors a pathway to access Bitcoin markets movements indirectly. DFNC's ETF's development aims to capitalize on MicroStrategy's broad Bitcoin holdings by providing investors with 175% of the daily returns of MicroStrategy stock. It is the most volatile ETF on the entire market space. Bitcoin Magazine noted the approval of this new ETF through their X-Space account. DFNC ETF strategic expansions of financial products linked to cryptocurrencies, MSTX, marks a significant milestone in MicroStrategy's progress. As the first of its kind, this leveraged ETF focuses on MicroStrategy's, which has integrated Bitcoin extensively into its asset base. MicroStrategy currently holds approximately 226,500 individual Bitcoins, aligning its stock performance closely with the fluctuations of this leading cryptocurrency. The MSTX ETF operates under a high-risk, high-reward mechanism designed to offer 175% of the daily return of MicroStrategy stock, which is inherently tied to Bitcoin's valuation. This leveraged approach magnifies potential gains and risk, making it a compelling option for risk-tolerant investors. The ETF provides amplified exposure to Bitcoin through their traditional financial instruments and reflects the evolving landscape of investment vehicles that cater to the growing interest in cryptocurrencies, regulatory evolution, and market impact. Eric, a senior ETF analyst from Bloomberg, noted this through the X platform, that MSTX could become one of the strongest ETFs available in the US market due to its unique structure. The SEC's approval of MSTX represents a notable shift in its regulatory stance towards leverage stocked single stock ETFs following years of cautious movements from Gary Gensler. This approval could pave the way for similar products that bridge traditional equity markets with the volatile cryptocurrency sector. SEC approves MSTX, linking MicroStrategy stocks to Bitcoin markets, moves and enhancing cryptocurrencies market access. MSTX offers a high investment, providing 175% of MicroStrategy's daily returns tailored for risk-tolerant investors. This regulatory approval shows a shift towards combining the traditional market space with the digital asset market space through innovative financial products, and shows how innovative essentially Gary Gensler and his team can become of greenlighting something. Because as we all know, if you want to get a green light for the crypto space, anything involving crypto assets from the SEC and Gary Gensler, the only option is to sue the SEC to get their attention. Because if you try to knock on the SEC's door and try to get some sort of crypto approval, it's never going to happen. But this is definitely of this new kind. Honestly, this is definitely going to help expand on the range of traditional finance connected digital finance, without a doubt. Also, with the SEC approving this so easily, it gives it a better look for other ETFs coming inside the market space to get some sort of a green light from the SEC. Because if the SEC is willing to approve something so quickly involving cryptocurrencies, then it shows a higher chance of any other ETF getting some sort of approval at a much more faster rate. Is that ETF worthy to look at? It's a high-risk ETF. If you want to look at it, not financial advice in any sort of a way, but it's a high-tolerance ETF. It's a very high-risk ETF. It's rated the #1 riskiest ETF to go for. 175% they're going to be giving you. Now, the next news to go from tonight's live show is regarding the state of Wisconsin. Yesterday on this live show, I revealed that the state of Wisconsin's pension funds were inside the Bitcoin ETFs, according to more recent filings. But now we have also a better idea, because they've just made a new investment. The state of Wisconsin's investment board increases their IBIT holdings to nearly 2.9 million shares. The state of Wisconsin's investment board has announced increasings of their holdings in BlackRock's iShare Bitcoin Trust by 447,651 shares. The latest addition brings its total to over $2.89 million as of June 30th, according to a recent SEC filing. So the state of Wisconsin expands their Bitcoin exposures. An independent agency handling assets for Wisconsin's retirement and state investment funds has expanded its Bitcoin's ETF investments beyond the 2.5 million shares reported at March end. Additionally, the filings reveal that the SWIB has invested its 1 million shares of Grayscale's GBTC from the first quarter. In addition to IBIT, the SWIB has invested in other cryptocurrencies related assets, including shares of Coinbase, Marathon Digital, Robinhood, and Block. The spot Bitcoin ETFs have seen increased adoption despite their recent market downtrends. The state of Michigan's retirement system also reported that they also own 110,000 shares of ARC21 shares Bitcoin ETF as well, which is almost $6.6 million. The constitution only of a 0.004% of their total $143.9 billion assets under management as of December 2023 that was recorded. Furthermore, Jersey City's Mayor Stephen has also revealed plans to allocate part of their city's pension fund to Bitcoin ETFs, marking a notable move towards incorporating cryptocurrencies into the finance space. On July 25th, also, he announced that via social media that the city's pension funds is amending its SEC filings to include Bitcoin ETFs. Jersey City, the second largest city in New Jersey, is taking steps to modernize its financial strategies as well. BlackRock's IBIT adoption curve. BlackRock's introduction of the IBIT fund this year has been highly successful. Since its launch in January, IBIT has seen over $20 billion in net inflows, making it the fastest growing spot Bitcoin fund to date. If the current accumulation trend continues, experts suggest that the IBIT could potentially surpass the Bitcoin holdings of Satoshi Nakamoto in about a year. BlackRock can have more Bitcoin essentially in value points than Satoshi Nakamoto in a year time if the essentially accumulation phase continues at this stage. Meanwhile, the latest developments comes at the heels of Goldman Sachs as well, disclosing their holdings of exceeding $400 million in US Bitcoin spot ETFs. Also, this includes their approximately $238 million in IBIT, $79 million in Fidelity's Bitcoin fund, and $35 million in GBTC. And according to the Financial Minimal Management data, the top holder of IBIT fund, followed by Cupola Management, is Goldman Sachs. So, Wisconsin's pension funds and Bitcoin ETFs, New Jersey's pension funds and Bitcoin ETFs, the state of Michigan's retirement funds also have Bitcoin ETFs. Not their entire budget, but it's starting to go towards that. So New Jersey, Michigan, and Wisconsin, all in Bitcoin ETFs. We're going their pension funds, retirement funds, they're all towards Bitcoin ETFs. This is definitely the indications of what's happening, but also they are also invested into Coinbase shares. They're also invested into Riot Platforms shares and Block shares and a few other blockchain companies as well. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Every time you hear news regarding Bitcoin ETFs, it's not just good for Bitcoin ETFs, it's good for the entire crypto space because it brings eyes in the entire crypto space. And once people start getting comfortable inside the corporate space with Bitcoin ETFs and then moving on to Ethereum ETFs and so on, but it's opening their range. So they're going to be slowly shifting over to the crypto space as well, to altcoins and so on, especially now we're going to get more ETFs on the way as well. But also it shows their expansion rate because they started with Bitcoin ETFs and now they have Coinbase shares or Block shares or some other cryptocurrency platform shares as well, which just shows their expansion rate happening. They're moving away, not just focused on Bitcoin, but to the fundamentals, the platforms behind it and so on. It's like growing confidence, which is what we want to see from the corporate sector. We want to see that growing confidence happening inside the corporate sector. They start off with Bitcoin ETFs and eventually start moving off. Now, Binance, which is definitely a new milestone. Now, Binance. On yesterday's live show, I revealed that Binance has recently again opened their doors in Brazil. And Brazil is definitely becoming a crypto hub as time passes extremely quickly. Brazil had to find Binance $1.7 million to open their doors back up, which they did. And India has decided to now open their doors back up to Binance as well, with Binance paying a small $1 million fine in India as well. Binance back in India. Operations resume after regulatory green lights. After a 7-month ban due to regulatory issues, Binance has successfully resumed operations in India. Marking an achievement with local financial regulations, the world's leading cryptocurrency exchange has regained its abilities to service provision in the Indian markets as fully registered entity under the Financial Intelligence Unit of India. Binance's return to the Indian market follows its addressing of previous non-compliance issues that led its initial ban in January and restricted access to Binance and several other cryptocurrency platforms failing to adhere to their local regulatory standards. This is going to bring more of the retail section through Binance inside the crypto space. Binance made its platforms accessible again to Indian users via its website and mobile applications on both Android and iOS. This trade move was confirmed in a blog post on X Space, where Binance highlighted its commitment to aligning with Indian regulations and tailoring its services to serve the local market better. This registration marks Binance's reestablishment in India and represents its 19th global regulatory milestone. India is recognized as one of the top 5 countries in transaction volume across all the crypto ecosystems. Underscoring this market's importance in Binance's global strategy, the exchange's recently secured virtual asset service provider VASP license in Dubai, further expanding its regulatory footprint. Since they removed CZ from Binance and Binance's suings have pretty much come to an end, having new 2 CEOs, both World Economic Forum members and more US departments of Binance than ever before, everyone is slowly opening their doors back up to Binance because no longer they're being sued by the SEC or the CFTC. Small suing with the SEC still going on, but nobody is really listening to Gary Gensler, to be fairly honest. But the CFTC lawsuit's pretty much ended after that $4 billion fine and CZ paying this $1 million fine as well. Now, on the topic of Binance, Binance has decided to write an article out of nowhere about XRP. XRP details unveiled by Binance US following the recent Ripple victory that we did have. Ripple's recent legal victory over the Securities and Exchange Commission of the United States have profoundly altered the cryptocurrency landscape. Binance US has taken advantage of this momentum by offering a thorough analysis of XRP. Very randomly, for no apparent reason, they decided to do this. Due to this development, there is now more discussions and conjectures about what will happen to XRP in the future, especially in relation to its possible conclusion in the ETF. A significant legal win that recently happened for Ripple on August 7th was a major contributing factor to the reassurance of the interest in XRP. The court found that there was no violations of federal security laws by Ripple when it sold XRP to retail investors via the exchanges. Notably, the price of XRP did surge by over 30% as a result of this decision, hitting levels not seen since April. Despite obstacles to the rally, the general outlook is still optimistic. Binance US provides detailed insights. Recent platform updates from Binance US includes important information about XRP. The discussion made it clear that David Schultz, Jed McCabe, and Arthur Bitro founded XRP in 2012. XRP Ledger Consensus Protocol, the cryptocurrency operating system, is different from Bitcoin's proof of work mechanism. Furthermore, Binance US noted that the XRP ledger scalability and efficiencies are demonstrated by its ability to process 1,500 transactions per second. The possibility of XRP ETF has been brought up in the conversation by this update as well, and market reactions of future projects. Notably, the market's reactions to the Ripple case outcome have been overwhelmingly positive. According to analysis, the price pattern of XRP shows a bullish flag, pointing to a possible rally on the verge for XRP. This is all coming from Binance. The amount of XRP available on exchanges is declining as investors hold on to their holdings and hope for a future price growth. Smaller holders have seen a rise in retail accumulation, which, while some larger investors have decreased their positions, further there is now more conjecture regarding the XRP ETF on the way. Due to Bitmore's exchange recent announcements of XRP USD futures contracts, these contracts represent the value of 100,000 XRP units that are set to be physically settled and margin-based. This action is thought to be a step towards improving market liquidity and accessibility. So Binance decided to do some sort of an article about XRP out of nowhere completely. And they did mention that the recent green light that they did receive for the XRP XUX was going to be called regarding the XRP futures. It is definitely a step towards an ETF to be happening next. And they also did mention that XRP is still on a positive route. The analysis from Binance also see it still being on a positive route for its future, and that there are less XRP held on exchanges, which shows growing confidence between investors, which comes back to that supply and demand scenario. So if there are people out, and also they're saying of XRP in the case was positive for XRP. Some people inside the crypto space will go against what Binance has just said regarding the case was positive. Some people in the crypto space are still making fun of this scenario and saying the case was not positive. And I've always said everybody's entitled to an opinion, but opinions are not correct and facts are facts. And the fact of the matter is, it's positive because XRP can move on and their token is regulated. And that is a positive as a factual thing. The other ones are perspectives. Everybody coming out with their own perspectives. Oh, it's not positive for XRP. Oh, positive. Or XRP's got a bad credit report because of what's happened and so on. Those people don't genuinely know what they're talking about because they have zero background inside the corporate sector and they don't understand how much of a massive positive this basically is for XRP and Ripple moving forward, essentially. And Binance sees it that way too. But everybody's entitled to an opinion. But thank God we live in a world where opinions don't matter and facts are facts. Now, Ripple's top lawyer, on the topic of Ripple, Ripple's top lawyer won't be surprised if SEC appeals. Now, I've talked about the SEC scenario of an appeal happening. And I said if the SEC appeals, it will get rejected no matter what. It will cause the XRP to be slightly volatile, but it will get rejected. There's not a judge that will greenlight Gary Gensler and his team of buffoons in any sort of a way at all. There's not a judge on this planet that will greenlight anything Gary Gensler does towards Ripple Labs. And I don't think Gary Gensler himself wants to go after Ripple because congressmen have brought up the Ripple case when it was ongoing multiple times against Gary Gensler of wasting taxpayers' money. Many congressmen actually pointed out the Ripple case of how Gary Gensler was wasting taxpayers' money and wasting everybody's time by not introducing regulations and suggesting the regulations we had from the 1980s applied to blockchain technology in 2024. Now, anyone with any sort of brain cells or common sense would have realized that, obviously regulations that you had before blockchain technology obviously wouldn't apply to blockchain technology because they were before blockchain technology, which then counter on the fact of blockchain technology. But that's just common sense, and Gary Gensler obviously lacks common sense. So Ripple's top lawyer has came out and said basically he wouldn't be surprised if the SEC tries to appeal because they genuinely are a team of buffoons or morons in some cases. So during a recent conversation with the securities law professor JW, Stewart, Ripple's top lawyer, said that he would not be surprised if the US Securities Exchange Commission does decide to appeal. However, XRP's legal status as a non-security is not going to be affected by this potential appeal, according to Stewart, Ripple's top lawyer. The Judge Torres determined that the secondary sales of controversial Ripple affiliated token were not securities. Apparently, this is not going to change, and that is the law of the land, and that does not change even if the SEC appeals, Stewart said. Earlier this month, Torres issued a final judgment on the Ripple case, ordering the San Francisco-based company to pay $125 million worth of penalties. The company was seemingly unfazed by the relatively hefty fine, forming the outcome of a victory over the regulatory agency, and has been violating for the years. The Ripple case has been going on for years. Following the most recent rulings, the judge made an appearance. Stewart made an appearance on CNBC, claiming that the SEC lost on everything, and that was important to them. He also mentioned the agency had 60 days to pursue an appeal. That is true. The SEC does have 60 days to do some sort of appeal if they want to do an appeal. Elliott, Bloomberg senior litigation analyst, recently opinionated their perspectives on the Ripple case, that so far the Ripple case has been quite positive. According to Elliott, a Bloomberg senior litigations analyst, the Ripple case has been positive. The Ripple case, in their perspective, is also going to be used in the Coinbase case as well to go up against the SEC. Stewart also stated that the court rulings would have a tremendous impact on the broader crypto industry. He also stated that the SEC's war on crypto had skewed its core mission. At the same time, Stewart is hopeful that Ripple's win would allow the industry to turn the page. In other words, so that they can finally continue forward. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If the SEC does appeal, it will get rejected. The moment the SEC appeals, obviously it won't be a straight rejection. The moment the SEC appeals, if they appeal, the moment the SEC appeals, it will take a matter of days or weeks before it gets rejected. Or months, but it will get rejected. But it will cause a volatile situation on XRP. If Gary Gensler is spiteful, he will do it. Because Gary Gensler knows it's a losing battle to go up against Ripple again. It's a genuine losing battle for them. So the chance of them going up against Ripple, very slim. If they try it, they will get rejected. Also, something interesting that you should know is that recent XRP futures that was green-lighted, the person in charge of that movement was the same person that sued Ripple a very long time ago and decided to leave the SEC. Is the same person that was helping to get a green light for the XRP futures. That's a new milestone that recently happened. Is the same person that sued Ripple from the SEC. So one big show. Me and JP were talking about this a very long time ago as well, that it's just one big massive show. Also, Miles and CMF from Football Camp and XRP News. Bill, good to see you. How you doing? That's the XRP News. Perfect timing. Miles, what about this new virus? Is it serious like Corona? You mean non-existent? Yeah. This new Mpox virus that's going around is pretty much non-existent. But, you know, there are going to be people lining up for new vaccines, untested vaccines as usual. Maybe they can make a... Did you already talk about the country using XRP for purchase recently? No. But do you want to elaborate on that, Scott? Maybe they can make a pandemic and from there a new financial system. They can always use pandemics as financial systems. Hello, Miles and CMF. Glenda, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? If we listen to everybody inside the crypto space on X, etc., you will just get into your bed and never get out of it. Lol. Should have spent less time going after Ripple and more time focused on new regulations. Facts. What Shelly said. Absolutely facts. JP, you need to unfollow these people. Carol, which one can I help? He's scored. Caltex. Okay. So, next news on tonight's live show is regarding JP Morgan and USDT Tether. So USDT Tether has had some difficulties in the EU market space. I've explained this before, where the MiCA regulations are not letting Tether operate in the EU. And some exchanges still have USDT up and running inside the EU market space. But those exchanges are also going to be delisting USDT by the end of the year. And some have already removed Tether. And Tether is not happy about this matter because they're losing market share in the EU. But the only thing that Tether has to do is show transparency, which they have difficulty doing. Now, JP Morgan has decided to come out and bash on Tether also. Stablecoin regulations could pose problems for Tether, JP Morgan says. USDT issuer claims sour grapes. Increasing regulations could pose a notable challenge for Tether, issuer of the largest stablecoin USDT, which has dominated the crypto markets in recent years. JP Morgan said on their new research report paper, a stablecoin is a type of cryptocurrency that is usually pegged to the US dollar, though some other cryptocurrency assets such as gold are also used. USDT has a market cap of about $117 billion, more than 3 times of its nearest rivals, Circle USDC. JP Morgan notes that markets in crypto assets, MiCA regulations, legislations in Europe mandates that 60% of stablecoin reserves should be held within European banks for transparency purposes. Given that Tether's composition of reserves complying with the MiCA regulations or requirements, it could necessitate significant changes to its reserves management strategy, analyst Nicholas said from JP Morgan. The stablecoin issuer has previously been subject to regulatory scrutiny due to the lack of transparency about the composition of its reserves, the bank said, adding that the new regulations would intensify pressure on Tether to provide more detailed disclosures and audits. Something that Tether hates doing is just being transparent. And with the EU pushing on Tether to be transparent, the longer Tether rejects the EU MiCA regulations, the worse it will look for Tether in the long run. One, they will lose out on one of the biggest market spaces out there, which is the EU. Two, the longer they keep on rejecting the idea of transparency and making up excuses, the worse they look in front of investors' eyes. Non-compliance with these new rules could threaten Tether's dominance in the stablecoin markets, the report said. Furthermore, JP Morgan said that stablecoin legislations in the US is still pending. But when it is finally introduced, most likely in 2025, adoption is expected to increase, making the cryptocurrency more mainstream. US compliant stablecoins stand to benefit, while non-compliant stablecoins would be challenged, potentially leading to consolidation in the industry, the report said. However, Tether refuted JP Morgan's arguments and said that the firm remains optimistic about the MiCA regulations and will impact the industry in the long term. So Tether has read the JP Morgan report that has just came out, and Tether has said, no, we believe the MiCA will listen to us. Because, of course, the EU is going to turn around and go, yes, Tether, what do you want? How should we help you? Because that's just how the world works. You see, the last person that said to the EU, no, was CZ. And I respect CZ so much. He did so much for the crypto space, incredible things for the crypto space CZ did. But the last person that said no to the EU was CZ. And after he said no to the EU, about a month later on, he got sued, CFTC, SEC, $4 billion fine, CZ in prison. But obviously Tether is optimistic, and Tether thinks the EU is going to come around and listen to Tether's points of view, because that's just how the world works. And the reason why CZ said no to the EU was the EU said, do not list privacy coins in the EU. Every exchange said, no problem, we will delist privacy coins. CZ came around and said, I'll think about it. And then he said, no. And about a month later, he got sued into the ground. He went to prison. Binance had to pay $4 billion. But obviously, CZ was optimistic about the scenario as well. Let's see how Tether is going to remain optimistic in the long run. So Tether refuted JP Morgan's arguments and said that the firm remains optimistic about the MiCA regulations, how they will impact the industry in the long term. He said, we recognize that the efforts of these regulations, which will impact every stablecoin issuer, will unfold gradually. However, certain aspects of the regulations presents challenges that could complicate the role of stablecoin issuers and increase the operational risk for EU licensed stablecoins. Tether firmly believes that the stablecoin regulations must ensure safety improvements rather than posing systematic risk, a Tether spokesperson told CoinDesk in a statement. The stablecoin issuer also criticized how Wall Street firms such as JP Morgan view the digital sector. So obviously JP Morgan doing an article about Tether, Tether responded by doing an article or report by JP Morgan. Now, obviously, JP Morgan is not going to be taking the high ground on this scenario. JP Morgan is one dodgy bank. They have been involved in so many dodgy behaviors, so many fines. So JP Morgan cannot be taking the high ground in this scenario either. Yes, Tether is dodgy, but Tether is only being proven to be dodgy once. Some people don't know about this either, but Tether was sued for not showing transparency, for not having the actual assets to back their reserves. Once, they paid a very small fine years ago. Nobody ever talks about it. JP Morgan has paid multiple fines for their dodgy behavior. So obviously JP Morgan is not going to be taking the high ground in this scenario. However, what JP Morgan's analyst Nicholas is saying, it is factual that Tether is living in la-la land. But nevertheless, Tether decided to respond. So the stablecoin issuer also criticized how Wall Street firms such as JP Morgan view the digital sector. JP Morgan analysts seem to still have a fundamental misunderstanding about how our industry works. Tether has been very public about our processes and risk management procedures, proving ourselves to be safer, more transparent, and more secure than recent history has shown traditional finance institutions themselves to be. So Tether has taken a swing, you could say, at JP Morgan, claiming that Tether is better in terms of transparency when it comes to traditional finance, and how Tether operates better than banks do because they haven't, burned and crashed like most banks have around the world. Which is absolute BS, because Tether has never shown transparency. They might be safer for now until we really find out what's back in Tether, but USDT keeps on printing money out of thin air, the same way the Fed keeps on printing more money out of thin air as well. Everybody thinks the US dollar is the only one that keeps on turning the printer machines. Tether keeps on printing on Tether also keeps on turning on the printing machine as well. All you hear on the news sometimes is Tether prints $1 billion USDT, Tether prints $1 billion USDT, Tether prints $1 billion USDT. And all of it is mostly on Tron network, which goes back to Justin Sun, which is also a very, very dodgy person. So the Fed aren't the only ones that print money out of thin air. Tether prints money out of thin air. And regarding banks being dodgy, they're not the only ones. So is Tether. Tether has never shown transparency. We don't know what's backing Tether at all. And they keep on printing more money out of thin air. And when you ask Tether USDT, why did you print 1 billion tokens? Their response is, for a rainy day. Never made any sort of sense. Because once that rainy day comes, you can just print it on the rainy day. Why would you print it 9 months before that rainy day comes? It's a line of code and you press enter. It's not like you're actually printing the money. And they always print it on Tron, ironically. Now, while we are sure JP Morgan is, but either way, Tether has decided to take a swing at JP Morgan because JP Morgan is taking a swing at Tether. This is an interesting battle. JP Morgan going head to head with Tether. It was also, ironically, about a month ago, it was Ripple's CEO on a podcast, Brad. He said that Tether is being investigated. And then Tether's CEO came out and said, how dare you lie about us being investigated and try to throw shame on our name. And then Tether's CEO decided to swing back at Brad, Ripple's CEO, essentially. And then now we have JP Morgan and Tether going at it at each other as well. Tether should make friends in the banking world, not go against them. In the long run, it will work out better for them. But to go on, while we are sure JP Morgan is, invisibly looking at Tether's profit margins and attempting to catch up to the crypto space, Tether remains committed to serving its 350 million customers worldwide and shaping the future of money, the statement added. Tether is definitely clapping back at JP Morgan regarding making quite a lot of money on fees. So Tether is basically saying to JP Morgan, you wished you were in our position. Stablecoin regulations pose a threat to Tether's dominance. They definitely do. And JP Morgan said this in their report. It is factual. Regulations are a huge threat to Tether, but not to USDC. Complying with MiCA regulations means that Tether may have to change its reserve management strategy, the bank said. Yes, if Tether wants to listen to the EU, which they should do if they want to stick around, is keeping 60% of their assets in EU banks, which Tether doesn't have. Tether doesn't have 60% of their assets to be putting inside of EU banks. Time will tell. Tether told CoinDesk in a response that JP Morgan analysts seem to still have fundamental misunderstanding about how the industry works. Tether is still claiming that JP Morgan has zero understanding of how blockchain technology works. They're telling a bank that they have zero understanding of how cryptocurrencies work. Weird. Very, very weird. Because telling a bank you don't understand how money works is laughable. Yes, we are talking about cryptocurrencies in this point of view. However, we are also talking about one of the largest financial institutions in the entire world. And telling JP Morgan you don't understand how money works. JP Morgan is an extremely dodgy bank. They definitely understand how money works. JP Morgan understands how clean money works and how dirty money works. If you know JP Morgan's history, you would understand the point that I just made regarding JP Morgan understands how clean money works and how dirty money works. They understand both of them. But this is an interesting battle. Tether and JP Morgan going at each other. But yeah, regarding Tether, they're going to be losing quite a lot of market share. Tether is going to be losing quite a lot of market share. And one of the biggest issues with Tether putting the transparency to one side, which is a major issue, is it's USDT. So Tether is the #1 stablecoin in the entire crypto space. And the number one stablecoin in the entire crypto space is US dollars, a digital US dollars. The bad part about that is that Tether is not an American company. And ironically, it's kind of a Chinese company. So the #1 stablecoin in the crypto space is a US dollar stablecoin. And it's not an American company. It's a Chinese-backed company. You can see why America doesn't like that. Look, in the long run, Tether's future is not that bright. Because one by one, the regulations will turn against Tether. The EU is the first one. The EU market space, a collective of countries, have turned against Tether. Because they know Tether can't put their reserves in EU banks, because Tether doesn't have that much in reserves to put it in EU banks. But also, if Tether puts their reserves in EU banks, those EU banks, some of them can collapse, which will be the downfall of Tether as well. On that point, there has been also a recent stablecoin that did keep some of their reserves in a Swiss bank, and that Swiss bank is now going bankrupt, which means that stablecoin that kept some of their reserves in that Swiss bank is about to lose it, which means that stablecoin is about to depeg. The good thing is that stablecoin is not a big stablecoin, but scenarios of that can happen. So Tether doesn't have reserves to put it in EU banks. Even if they did, the EU could use that move to bankrupt Tether and bring it to the ground by choosing that particular bank to go on a bankruptcy list, and Tether's assets and reserves are in that bank and it goes south, for example. But one of the biggest market spaces, putting all that to one side, one of the biggest market spaces in the entire world, the EU, is against USDT. Next, it will be the UK who will be against USDT. Next, it will be Canada who's against USDT. Next, it will be the US who's against USDT. And it will just continue on like a ripple effect. Interesting use of word there, but like a ripple effect. Country by country, continent by continent, will start rejecting USDT. The same way that when Binance was being sued by the US, before Binance was sued by the US, Binance was working with everybody. Binance was working with the UK, with the EU, with India, with Brazil, Latin America, Asian countries, Middle Eastern countries. And then Binance gets sued by the US. The UK drops Binance, the EU drops Binance, Canada drops Binance, Latin America drops Binance, India drops Binance, and the list just goes on. Continent by country, they dropped Binance one by one. And now that the cases came to a close for Binance, India reopens their doors to Binance, green light. EU, green light. Brazil, green light. Latin America, green light. Everybody green lighted Binance now, because now they're good with the US. They have two new CEOs that are both World Economic Forum members. There are many US departments in Binance. So same thing that happened to Binance pretty much is on the verge to happen to Tether. One by one, the continents are now rejecting, essentially. They're going to be rejecting Tether. The EU is the first one. Next will be UK, next will be Canada, next will be the US, and the list just will go on. Continent by continent, country by country, rejecting Tether. And they'll just base it on regulations. And the one regulation that Tether can never abide by is what? Transparency. Because the EU wants Tether to be transparent, and Tether can't. So every country will make that same regulation. And if you think these countries won't follow each other, well, let me put it to you this way. In the last G20 summit that happened in New Delhi, all the G20 countries signed the same declaration. They all signed the same declaration in the G20 summit. G20 countries, US, EU, UK, the list just goes on. They all signed the same declaration that cryptocurrency regulations will be the same across the board in G20 countries, with some different regulations in place based on different jurisdictions, but the majority of regulations will all be the same in G20 countries for cryptocurrencies. So with essentially Tether getting rejected by the EU, and the one rule that works against Tether is become transparent, the UK is going to bring out stablecoin regulations on a large scale and make it become transparent, which means Tether can't operate. Canada is going to do the same thing, so is the US, and that's basically their kryptonite. Tether's kryptonite is being transparent. They can't do it, because that means they have to keep some of their assets, their reserve assets, in those particular banks that these countries tell them to do. And Tether can't do that. USDC can. They just got green-lighted by the EU. USDC said, no problem. You want transparency? Circle, USDC will give you transparency. Tether said no. So Tether's kryptonite is transparency. And all these G20 countries are going to use that against Tether, knowing it will never become transparent. Which means Tether will start losing ground. And the EU is the playground it's starting all from. So this is going to be interesting, because we also have a new stablecoin coming out the ranks, Ripple's RLUSD. Ironically, at the exact same time, Tether's losing space inside the market space. But it is quite bad for a stablecoin, for your kryptonite to pretty much be transparency for a stablecoin, and your kryptonite is transparency. That's not good. That's the worst kryptonite you can have for a stablecoin. Transparency. You can't do it. Even though Tether claims they're transparent. Well, the MiCA regulations asked you to become transparent, and you said no. But apparently Tether's transparent. There's one thing saying it, but there's another thing showing it. And Circle is showing they're transparent with their USDC coin. That's why they're green-lighted in the EU. And Tether is not. We live in a simulation, Boardman. Thank you, Anne. Okay, let's go inside the comment section. Let's see where we are inside the comment. By the way, it's a live Q&A, so if you have any questions, put it outside the comment section. I'm reading everyone's comments one by one as well. So let's see where I was. I quick short answers I'll give everyone. I was at here. Do you think the virus is real, impacting the new financial system? They can use a virus for the Mpox situation that's going around. They can use that. They can use it, obviously, to distract people. Ironically, it's coming at the exact same time of elections again. They can for a new financial system as well. Greetings from USA. Burberry, how you doing? How high can you see XDC going? Not overnight, but over time, XDC will do incredibly well. Incredibly well. Due to R3 Corridor, 47 Japanese banks, World Bank of International Settlements. R3 Corridor is listed in quite a lot of documentations from the Bank of International Settlements, the banks of all central banks, 63 centralized banks, including G20 and G7 countries. But R3 Corridor is mentioned in multiple documents, all public information on the PDF documentations. And R3 Corridor is basically XDC, but also that 47 Japanese banks. The future for XDC inside the financial space is extremely bright, is what I would say. Extremely bright future. If you're holding XDC, you have a very big future ahead of yourself as well, is what I would say. Hello again, beautiful people. Let's go, Thompson. How you doing? We live in a simulation, Boldman. Thank you for the interesting comment. His name is Miles. Let's go, Carol. Yeah, my name is Miles, not Boldman, but in 2 to 3 years, nobody will be talking about Tether. They will be done, and they will be hanging out with the big guy, Sam. Let's go, JP. Good evening, Miles of CMF. Ghost Brother, good to see you as well. How you doing? Ironic how SEC spends all this time on Ripple, but ignores Tether. Yep. Because I think they're leaving the best to the end. Tether is the best to the end. It's a big one. Taking out Tether USDT is definitely going to cause massive ripple effects inside the entire crypto space if you're going to go after Tether. It's the #1 stablecoin in the entire space. Is Tether being supported in the background by Gary Gensler? Because they certainly don't seem to be questioned seriously by the SEC. No. But interesting comment, how you places it. I would have to say, and based on your comment regarding is Tether being supported in the background by Gary Gensler, because they certainly don't seem to be questioned seriously by the SEC. Tether was in court once for not having the correct reserve assets, and they paid a fine for that. But nobody talks about that case from Tether's scenario. But here's the thing: Tether is in a new battle with a company that borrowed money against Tether. So there was a company that borrowed money against Tether, crypto platform that borrowed money against Tether, and now decided to sue Tether because Tether used their collateral. And how the deal pretty much fell through was Tether got their cryptocurrencies from this platform, and Tether said, we'll give you a loan. So Tether gave out a USDT loan to this crypto platform, and Tether kept their Bitcoins as collateral. Obviously, when Bitcoin's price dropped, Tether asked for more assets from this platform, and this platform couldn't afford to give more assets to Tether. So they told Tether to, sell off their collateral. And Tether did sell off some and held some and so on. And time passes. A lot of time passes. This crypto platform came back into the scene and decided to sue Tether for $2 billion for selling their assets that was supposed to be used as collateral. According to Tether, they told Tether to sell it as collateral. But the other platform claims it's not that way around. And they're both telling different stories. Okay, why is this important? Is because this case is stupid in the first place. Tether and this crypto platform is a very stupid case. But what this stupid case does is bring Tether to the courts. And what it does essentially is the longer this case carries on, the more of an idea the CFTC and the SEC and Gary Gensler will have on Tether's operations. The case in general is dumb. The idea of this case is just dumb in both prospects. However, the longer this case carries on with Tether and this random platform, the longer the SEC and the CFTC will have a better picture of how Tether operates by going through the court documentations. That's what the interesting part is. So the SEC and the CFTC are going to have some interesting perspectives on how Tether operates regarding their stakings, their loans, and so on. Also, Tether provided collateral and loans and so on without having any sort of money transfer to licensings at that particular time and moment that it did happen in. So that's also some sort of a fraud type of situation. So the longer this case carries on, the worse it will look for Tether, even though the case is genuinely dumb. But this case will open up the roadmap of how Tether operates the longer it carries on, which means the CFTC and the SEC will have a better picture, but it also brings Tether to the courts. So yeah, if you didn't know, now you know that Tether is being sued for the most dumbest case ever. But this case, the longer it carries on, the SEC and the CFTC will have a better idea of how Tether operates from those documentations that will be brought up in the case. And ironically, this case is interesting the way it happened on the timing. But yeah, and regarding Tether is being supported by Gary Gensler because they don't seem to be questioned by the SEC. But there are some things happening in movements. The US Treasury also decided to go in terms of investigations over Tether as well. Why does the US government take out loans when they are already just printing extra money? Why not just print money? The more money they print, the more inflation is created, which the worse the economy gets. And the dollar will be worthless the more they print. So borrowing against it would be sometimes a better option. JP Morgan has gotten away with a lot in the past. Yes, they have. JP Morgan has definitely got away with a lot in the past. Great information, Miles. Thank you, Zeus. Miles, in your opinion, if the COVID pandemic was pushing us all into digital payments, what are they trying to push us into next with monkeypox? Now that we know this BS. Great question, Free Forever. So a while ago, a very long time ago, I revealed to everyone that the World Bank was doing payments. At the exact same time that COVID happened was the exact same time that the World Bank was doing blockchain payment testings, which was successful. And the exact same time we had COVID. And COVID pushed everyone away from cash into Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, and cryptocurrencies, is what COVID did. COVID pushed everybody towards blockchain technology, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, and cash resilient. The cash usage came down quite a lot. There are multiple data out there that shows that in terms of Apple Pay, Mobile Pay, Google Pay, and so on, it's about 80% rate we're looking at of people moving towards digital payments compared to cash usage. And some people still believe that cash carries germs from COVID times. So, but the ironic part about this is the World Bank was doing blockchain testings, which was successful. In the same year COVID started out, was the same year the World Bank did blockchain testings, and it was successful. And then it made everybody move from fiat currencies to essentially digital payments in the same year. All of this happened. Nothing in this world happens by coincidence, and everything is pretty much coordinated to happen. The idea of blockchain technology wasn't a surprise to governments, even though they pretend it's a surprise to governments. And nothing in this world happens. And the ideology of cryptocurrencies are for the people, created by the people, and so on, is just complete BS. Anything involving massive financial gains or changing the entire route of an entire planet is not a coincidence. It's coordinated, and it shows with the World Bank doing blockchain testings, which were successful testings, and then we have COVID in the same year the World Bank was doing testings, which made everybody move away from cash to digital payments. And ironically, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Samsung Pay are now doing testings in CBDC payments. So Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, they're doing CBDC testings with Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay in India right now, just to stay relevant for these digital payments. But the timeline is then obviously the Russian war after COVID was to bump up the prices and create a bigger gap between the upper middle class and lower middle class and so on. And then the last war that's happening right now is just one massive distraction for everybody, and everybody got distracted very nicely. Everybody was a lot of people were protesting about this last war that was happening, which everybody was completely distracted. And what's happening next is pretty much CBDC wallets and social credit systems and so on. And while everybody was distracted by this last war that was happening, is what's basically en route to happen. CBDC social credit systems. Everything is a step-by-step plan. And this whole ideology of cryptocurrencies were created by the people for the people is absolute BS. The governments. If you look at a document, there's a documentation from the Bank of International Settlements from the 1980s. There's a documentation that's titled 1980-1990, a PDF documentation from the Bank of International Settlements, which is the banks of all central banks, 63 centralized banks, G20 countries, G7 countries, and so on, are all under the Bank of International Settlements. There's a documentation, PDF documentation from 1980s, 1990s, that's titled eCash 1 and eCash 2. It's talking about the concept of blockchain technology on eCash 1, eCash 2 from the Bank of International Settlements. So from the 1980s, 1990s, the ideology of the idea of blockchain technology was always on the roots. And then you fast forward to COVID period, where they had essentially, from the COVID period, where essentially they had the World Bank doing testings on blockchain technology, and it was successful on blockchain technology testings from the World Bank. And then we had COVID, and then everybody moved away from cash to digital payments. These are all step by step to get people into blockchain technology. And then the governments go against cryptocurrencies at the beginning. And then when the governments at the beginnings went against cryptocurrencies, what does that do? It makes people run towards cryptocurrencies even more. The more the governments say don't do this, the more people will end up doing it. So it's just basic reverse psychology, and everybody fell for it anyways. But with the World Bank doing testings on blockchain technology, successful, COVID stops. And then they tell everybody not to go towards cryptocurrencies, and then everybody runs towards cryptocurrencies, even though they knew about it since the 1990s, 1980s. And then they have the Russian war, which bumps up the prices. It creates a bigger gap between low-class people and middle-class people and upper-class people. And then the last war that we're having right now is just one big, massive distraction. So nobody's focused on what's about to happen next, which is basically CBDCs and social credit systems that were ironically also developed by the Melinda Gates Foundation. That was also announced in the World Economic Forum, which again nobody pays attention to, because everybody would rather watch Love Island than watch the World Economic Forum and realize what's about to happen next. And the World Economic Forum, the Melinda Gates Foundation, did say that they've been working for 10 years on CBDCs and social credit system wallets to be connected to each other. But again, nobody watches that. So this is all step-by-step plan to make people go digital. They're pushing people to go digital. They're pushing people towards blockchain. Even when the governments were saying blockchain is bad, crypto is bad, they actually want you to go towards blockchain technology because that's where we're headed. But they know that if they tell you to go towards blockchain, you would just say no. But if they tell you don't go towards blockchain, you would say yes. Which is basic psychology. And then everybody, fell for it like crumbs, cookie crumbs, and people just kept on picking up the cookie crumbs and moving towards it. Now, you fast forward to now, basically when you fast forward to now, is basically when we're getting closer and closer to CBDCs. Now the banks are coming in, now the regulations are coming in, and now everybody's on board from the corporate sector. They were always on board from the corporate sector, but they pretended very nicely that they weren't and made more people go towards blockchain technology. So even the people that are claiming, cryptocurrencies for the people and it's all about decentralization and so on and so on, it's all just one big show. So the only positive thing about it is choosing the correct projects in this one big show. That's the only thing you can do, is choose basically the correct project, because it's just one big show. And the best project obviously choosing would be the one that's backing this entire new financial system for CBDCs, because that's what everybody's going to be on. And obviously the US is, we're against CBDCs, as if anybody's going to listen to the politicians. As much as the politicians in the US want to go against CBDCs, it's never going to work. Even if Donald Trump tries it, it's never going to work. They will do everything in their power to make things go the way they want to. And they is basically the World Economic Forum, the Bank of International Settlements, the International Monetary Fund. They have the biggest pull on anything. The World Economic Forum, the Bank of International Settlements, and the International Monetary Fund can just pretty much flip this world upside down. I don't mean literally flip this world upside down, but I mean in terms of financial system, they can flip this world upside down on its head. So they have that much amount of power to do whatever they basically want to do. So that's on the basis of me talking about the pandemic. When I told everybody regarding COVID, that's what was going on in COVID. The World Bank was doing testings in blockchain technology, and it's there. The proof is there, and it was successful blockchain testings. And then we had COVID at the exact same time the testing was successful. So everything was a step by step to get people into blockchain. But they didn't tell you go into blockchain, because if the government tells you to go to blockchain, everybody will say no. Why would I go to blockchain? But if they tell you don't go to blockchain, then everybody will run towards blockchain. It's just basic common sense for everybody to get into. So choose the right project with the best option in this whole big show. And choosing the best project would be the one choosing the background, the backbone of the CBDC wallets, which is basically Ripple and XRP. There's 24,000 crypto projects, and only one is doing CBDCs, has a CBDC active platform, multiple CBDC awards. Most people don't even know they have CBDC awards, multiple CBDC awards, and obviously Bank of International Settlements, World Economic Forum, International Monetary Fund, which are the three groups behind essentially this whole idea of CBDCs. So that's what all that's about regarding COVID pandemics and so on. Now, regarding to this new mpox that's coming up, there's always a bigger scenario behind it, which you can always backtrack it to some sort of PDF documentations. They always tell you what they're going to do, but just most people don't know where to look. Now, regarding and that monkeypox, or mpox is what they're calling it, this new updated variant is what they're calling it. It's apparently made its way to Sweden. 2 people in Sweden have died from this whole mpox situation. Somehow it's made its way to Sweden. Now, why are they introducing mpox now, out of all times? Well, now we're going to the US elections, which is quite important. Now, obviously, everything is planned and everything's en route and so on. But sometimes plans can go south if some people try to step in front of your plans. Now, obviously, the 2 people that are right now stepping in people's plans is, one, Trump. Trump is standing in front of their plans and ideologies. And obviously, somewhere down the road, Trump can maybe go on their team as well. Or maybe he is on their team and is just playing dumb for ugly. But, you know, Kamala Harris is on their team. Kamala Harris is with the World Economic Forum, with the Bank of International Settlements, with the International Monetary Fund. Kamala Harris will read anything. You know, any piece of paper you give her, she will read it. Doesn't matter if she's president, VP, or anybody. She would read it from a piece of paper like she wrote it herself. Trump, on the other hand, he has difficulties listening to orders, which the World Economic Forum, Bank of International Settlements, International Monetary Fund don't like. So now we're coming up to the presidential elections. If they can get this mpox variant on a large scale and, you know, exaggerate it all over the news and make the voting scenario a bit difficult for people, then let's see how that goes. So if they can get this whole mpox situation over-exaggerated on the news, make people have a fear of going outside in case of catching mpox, then the voting scenario might get a little bit difficult. They might start saying, oh, you can't be in too many large crowds, which means the Trump rallies won't be as big anymore. But ironically, during COVID times, they had essentially the Joe Biden crowds. You know, a lot of people were there and there was no issue. Nobody apparently caught COVID when they were rooting for Joe Biden. But if you were rooting for Trump and you were in a big crowd, somehow you would catch COVID on the news. On the news, it would say, oh, Trump voters and so on, big rally, lots of people catch COVID. Joe Biden rally, nobody caught COVID. I don't know how that one works, even though COVID was completely imaginary, but I don't know how that one works. They might start spreading the same stories, try to put fear in people. Don't go outside. You might catch this. Don't be in large groups and so on. They might start making it a bit difficult for the rallies, start making it difficult for the votings. We are coming up to a very crucial space right now, crucial time, which is the presidential elections for the US. I'm in the UK, okay, and it affects us too. I've said this before and I'll say it again, and it's the same pretty much the words as the Bank of International Settlements puts it. The American markets. If the American markets sneeze, the world market catches a cold. Whatever happens in the US economy affects the entire world. If the US economy goes south, the entire world market goes south with it. So the US voters, it's not just obviously important to the US voters. You know, what happens into the US, what happens in the US is not just important to US citizens. It's important to all of us, because every single one of us are affected with whatever happens in the US. If the US economy is bad, our economy goes south with it. The stock market goes south with it. The crypto market goes south with it. The real estate market goes south with it. The automotive market space goes south with it. Everything will go south with it. So the US markets affect all of us. It's not just the US citizens. So now we're coming up to one of the biggest elections, not just for the US, but the entire world. And we're having mpox come out of nowhere. They realized they couldn't stop this man with, you know, putting him in prison. They realized they couldn't stop him or slow him down with putting him in prison. They realized they couldn't take him out. They realized many things that they couldn't do to Trump. And now we get to a stage where they're trying to do crowd control with mpox. So let's see how that one plays out. But also, again, this could just be one big show. You know, politics and finance is just one big psychology game. Is psychological game. Sorry. Politics and finance is just one big, massive psychological game. So you would have to see if this whole Trump scenario is maybe even one big show. You know, trying to put him in prison so people will like him more. Try to take him out so people will like him more. So those are also some things to consider as well. And I'm not saying Kamala is good. She's absolutely useless. Kamala Harris is absolutely useless. So I'm definitely not saying that. But I'm also saying this could just, again, be one big show as well. They were trying to put him in prison for one big show so people will like him more. They tried to take him out so people will like him more. So people will go towards him and so on and so on. This could also be one big show as well. Everything around you is just one big show. But it's about just understanding the fundamentals of this game that we're basically living in. And it's all, you know, regarding the finance aspects of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, there's PDF documentation to prove that. Regarding, as I said, the World Bank doing blockchain testings, and it was successful. And then we had COVID in the same year. The World Bank did testings on blockchain technology, and they pushed everybody towards digital payments, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, which is now going to be, they're doing testings with Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay for CBDC wallets. But they pushed everybody towards digital payments with COVID and towards blockchain technology. And it was the same year the World Bank did testings on blockchain technology that was successful, the World Bank. And then they, you know, the Russia war happened, and obviously they made everything go up in value and price points, and, you know, create a bigger gap between the poor and the rich and so on. And then at the same time, the government was telling you crypto's bad, and which made everybody run towards crypto even more because the government hates it, and, you know, and so on. And then we have this war that's going on right now, which is basically just one massive distraction, so people don't realize what's about to happen next in terms of CBDC wallets and social credit systems. That was designed by the Bill Gates Melinda Foundation. 10 years they've been working on it. That was announced in the World Economic Forum in 2024. So this also could be one big show as well regarding Trump scenario as well. And again, I'm not saying Kamala Harris is a good person or intelligent person. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Kamala Harris, actually I call her goldfish, and that's not a good thing. The reason why I call Kamala Harris goldfish is because she basically shares the exact same brain cells as a goldfish, is the reason why I call Kamala Harris goldfish. She shares pretty much the exact same brain cells as a goldfish. So, but this whole Trump scenario could also be one big show, because to get more people to like him, to go for him, to vote for him. But also, it could be the other way around. It could be, you know, Trump is genuinely trying to stand up for the people one last time before everything goes south. So you've got to look. Politics and finance is just one big psychological game. It's just what it is. Just one big, massive psychological game that they're just playing everybody. The only thing you can do is play the game right. Just play the game right is anything you can do. The world's going towards CBDCs. We have more regulations than ever before. We have more banks, more institutions. They made the people go into blockchain first, and now they're going to essentially, and some people enter, some people didn't enter, but the majority will shift towards blockchain on the rise. But also, the world's going towards CBDCs. 24,000 crypto projects. There's only one CBDC platform that's active out there out of 24,000 crypto projects, and it's basically XRP and Ripple. The world's 98% of the world, 98% of centralized banks, 98%, according to the Bank of International Settlements, 98% of the centralized banks are in CBDCs, either test stage, research stage, implementation to testing stage, and so on. In CBDCs, 24,000 crypto projects, and 24,000 crypto projects, and only one is in CBDCs with an active CBDC platform. And people will criticize, you know, Ripple. People will criticize, oh, XRP is useless, or Ripple is useless as a company. It's a Ponzi scheme. But then those people aren't very bright. I'll be very honest with you. If you go against Ripple, if you hate Ripple, you're not very intelligent. And I'm not the only one saying this. The Bank of International Settlements also calls XRP investors intelligent people. But putting that to one side, it's the only project with an active CBDC platform, 24,000 crypto projects, and it's the only one with an active CBDC platform that's being used, has won multiple CBDC awards, is with multiple speeches and announcements in the World Economic Forum. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, Ripple buys tickets to the World Economic Forum. Yes, anybody can buy tickets to the World Economic Forum. Shiba Inu could buy tickets to the World Economic Forum. But do you think they'll let Shiba Inu do a speech at the World Economic Forum? Hell no. To become a member of the World Economic Forum is about $1 million. But they'll look at your application and reject you on the spot if they don't like you. So even on the people that, saying, oh, Ripple buys tickets. Yes, anybody can buy tickets. But it's about them letting you through the doors. So World Economic Forum, Ripple. International Monetary Fund, Ripple. Bank of International Settlements, Ripple. 98% of the world of centralized banks in CBDCs, 24,000 crypto projects, and only one has a CBDC platform that's active with multiple CBDC awards. So if this is one big show, which most likely is, choosing your cards right will be the best thing. If you're playing a game, choosing your cards right will be the best scenario. So, well, the best scenario would be CBDCs. Sorry, that's not the best scenario. But what's going to happen is CBDCs. So the best scenario would be choosing something that's behind the CBDCs. But, people are going to still hate on Ripple. People are going to still hate on XRPs and so on. But most people aren't intelligent. And most people still don't know this is just one big game. And that crypto was pushed upon you. And it's not the freedom of... Up to a certain extent it is. Obviously, it's better than cryptocurrencies. But cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology in general was pushed upon you. Blockchain was pushed upon you by, at the beginning, the government's telling you not to go to blockchain. Government's telling you crypto is bad, don't go to blockchain. So it makes everybody do what? Run towards blockchain. And then now governments, that people have started using blockchain technology, now governments are like, oh, we got regulations for you. The banks are in, the institutions are in. The next clientele entering the wave in 2024 is institutional clientele. Because it worked. It fully worked. They made people move away from cash in COVID at the exact same time the World Bank was doing testings, which was successful. And then told everybody crypto's bad, which makes people run towards crypto even more to get everybody used to blockchain technology. And then Russian-Ukraine war, which made the prices go higher, create a bigger gap between the rich and the poor. Very simple, with upper middle class, lower middle class, and so on. And then the last war was just one big massive distraction, which everybody got distracted on. And now everybody's turning against each other. In lots of countries, there are religions going at each other. There are two religions going at each other, or people going at each other's throats for no apparent reason. It's just one big massive distraction. And people are falling for it. It's like cookie crumbs. They're leaving cookie crumbs everywhere, and people just picking it up, eating it, picking it up, eating it. Just what's basically happening. And what's going to happen next is just CBDCs and social credit systems. So be prepared in the CBDC world, the social credit system world, that we're not actually very far off. Brazil was applauded, applauded by the Bank of International Settlements for releasing their CBDC next year. India is expanding their CBDCs next year as well. Russian Ruble coming out next year. EU CBDC, wholesale CBDC coming out next year as well. So while everybody's focused on each other, nobody's really looking up on why is all this happening. Everybody's just blaming each other. Genuinely, everybody's just blaming each other. It's just very, very odd. But it's so easy to manipulate people. It's just funny. Honestly. You don't have to be that smart to influence tens of thousands of people or millions of people. Once you sit back and realize what's actually happening and how well they're playing these games on people, you don't have to be a genius to be influencing millions of people to do the wrong thing or to fall for, the traps you're laying out. People are very easily influenced. It's easier than you think to influence tens of thousands of people to do what you want. Once you sit back and have a bigger picture. Now, if Tether goes down, wait, let's see what in the comments. So regarding this MPOX situation, it's total BS, but it's going to be crowd controls. What's going to be? If Tether, great comments on about XDC. Yes, I love hearing it. Let's go, Scott. If Tether goes down, how will it infuse fiat into the system? If Tether goes down, how will it infuse fiat? Scott, elaborate. If Tether goes down, it's definitely going to impact the crypto markets. It's either for Tether to go down, USD to go down, or get phased out. XLM, great project, incredible project. Money transfer licensing, partnerships, going to do incredibly well for itself in the finance space. Mouse, I keep getting the question, what about people that are elderly and they go to CBDC, they won't be able to download an app on the phone? Okay, great question, Abby Bices. There's three categories. In a digital world, there's three categories of people. The first category of people is people who realize that everything is happening around them, people who realize the banks are closing, the ATMs are closing, a lot of places aren't accepting cash anymore, and they start going towards cryptocurrencies, which is, the people that are not in the elderly group, and they're taking action. And then you have the second group of people, which, just like the first group of people, are all in the same age group, and they're realizing the banks closing, the ATMs closing, the cash points closing, a lot of places not accepting cash, and they don't care. These people will naturally get left behind on CBDCs. The third group of people are people in rural areas or people who are elderly people who don't get any sort of help to go into the digital world, and they will also get naturally left behind and eventually landing CBDCs. Now, China has realized this problem about the elderly people. How are they going to get on CBDCs? China obviously realized that they want everybody in CBDCs, and they realize that some people might not be able to afford smartphones. Some people might not be able to afford even the oldest iPhone on the market space, because they live in some rural areas or villages or towns, and they're incredibly in the older category, and they might not have enough money. But obviously, China wants them on CBDCs. So how does China accomplish that? Well, they created something called the Super SIM card. I'm not even joking. That is the name. It's called Super SIM card. You can go and search about it. And the Super SIM card is designed for CBDC wallets, and it works on 6G phone internet connections, 5G phones, 4G phones, 3G phones, and 2G phones. So even if you have a phone that's not even a touchscreen, just has numbers. Do you remember in the olden days when you would have a phone, the numbers, you have to click it 3 times for one letter? Some people in the younger generation would have zero clue what I'm talking about. But in the olden days, we had Nokia phones where you would have to tap number 3, for example, a few times. If you want the letter B, you would have to tap the number 2 number twice to get B, and so on. So even if you have a phone like that, you can still have a CBDC wallet. So they're not trying to leave out anybody. They want everybody in that digital world. Even if you have some old Nokia phone with 2G connection, you're still going to be on CBDCs. They thought about everything. And the reason, obviously, they're having open borders right now, with governments doing absolutely nothing about it and just leaving the gates open, anybody can come across, is because they want everybody on CBDCs. They don't care who it is, but they want everybody on this digital passport they're creating right now, or created and going to be launching, which is basically what's happening. But that's the reason that they're leaving the gates open. Every country is leaving open borders. Nobody cares. Every country is open borders, welcoming everybody in, because they want everybody on digital passports. That's all they care about. And while people are looking at each other and going, why do we have open borders? I hate this person, or I hate that, but everybody's going against each other. Because in reality, what they're doing is just preparing everybody for that digital world, which they want everybody in. They just don't want to leave out anybody. Even if you have a Nokia phone, you're in. And the reason, obviously, open borders is with that scenario, because people will say, oh, the open borders for the US is because of votings. They don't need open borders for US voters. Okay, they don't want. They can rig elections. They don't really need voters coming in from Mexico to be doing votings for Kamala Harris. They can just rig elections to their own point of view. Now, obviously, it'd be quite difficult to do rig elections, but they can do it if they want to. Now, also, people are right now in the US, for example, arguing about why they, giving immigrants. Everybody's focus on the US The majority of people is focused on the immigrants. Is why are they giving immigrants, hotel rooms? Why are they giving immigrants money, bank cards, and food, water, and so on? Because they want your attention to go on those immigrants. They want you to be focused on those immigrants. They want you to be, thinking about things that are pretty much nonsense, but they want you to think about essentially, focused on that matter of why they're looking after immigrants when they're not looking after their own citizens, because they want you to focus in the US on that matter. They want you to focus on these immigrants because it's just nonsense thoughts. Absolute nonsense thoughts, but they want you to focus on those immigrants inside the US. You thinking, why are they giving them free bank cards? Why are they giving them free hotel rooms? Why are they giving them food and water and so on and so on? Why is the US government looking after immigrants more? Because they want your focus to go there. But also, it's two birds, one stone, as the old saying goes, because later on, those people will be on CBDCs, and it's easy to put them on CBDCs when they're inside that jurisdiction. But it also, it's two birds, one stone. People get focused, people's focus goes somewhere else. Governments get what they want at the end, which is CBDC wallets and social credit systems. Everybody has to go on CBDC wallets and social credit systems. They have people on Nokia phones going on CBDC wallets. 2G SIM cards are going to be going on CBDC wallets. They are not leaving out anybody. Nobody's getting left behind. Everybody will be on CBDC wallets and social credit systems is what the goal is. And if they can do it by shifting your focus on absolute nonsense every single time they can, they will do it, is what they're doing. It's just they want your focus to be somewhere else, and it's working. People are making videos about it, people are doing podcasts about it, and everybody's focus is there. Nobody's really focused on what's actually happening, which is CBDC wallets and social credit systems. And again, they were designed by the Bill Gates Melinda Foundation. The two people you don't want anywhere near you is Bill Gates and Melinda. It's Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. These are genuinely the two people you don't want anywhere near you or your family is Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. Those are two people you don't want anywhere near you. But those are the two people that are creating, their foundation is creating social credit systems and CBDC wallets attached together for about 10 years. They've been building it. Why does Jeremiah Da Vinci somewhat miss people about Ripple XRP? Because they don't want it to go towards it. He constantly endorses Bitcoin and some other meme coins because they want people to go towards that instead. Bitcoin is becoming outdated because it's constantly getting slower. It is. Thompson, let's go. I'm in Sweden. Should I sit at home and be worried, or should I be out working to buy more XRP? No, you're perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen this time. There's too many mistakes last time, and people realize it's BS. But yes, you will get the other people on the other spectrum that will mask up tomorrow. Honestly, they will make sure he's not here come November. It's so sad. Yeah, I agree as well. I hope Trump is good, but I feel like they are all working together. No, that was too close for the show. I'm sorry. I know you can't say that word yet. Yep. It's just an outcome. The only thing you can do is definitely not look at your portfolio at the meme coin low. Yep. XRP is soon to be the next Bitcoin with meaningful world utilities. XDC, XRP, X11 HBAR will be your new best friend. Don't worry, I'm in love with them. Let's go, Thompson. Yes, I mentioned the reverse tech of 2G adaptability, but some people are clueless to any cell phones. Amish, for example. Even the Amish people will put them on CBDCs somehow. There's no exits, not a single exit. If you live in a war zone, they're moving people from war zones to European and Western countries. They're moving people from war zones to Western countries, open borders, because they want people on CBDCs. If you're using a Nokia phone, you'll be on CBDCs. The Super SIM card will take care of that. 2G connections can also have CBDC wallets. Even Amish people will go on CBDC wallets. Nobody is getting left behind in the digital world. Why do they just do a CBDC bank card like banks use now? Why don't they just do a CBDC bank card like banks use now? They want to make everything digital, so no bank cards is what they're doing, just on digital payments. Well, in the UK, it's kind of different. Yes, CBDCs are down the road, but they want to vote. But they want them to vote. The borders here is different. The reason they want them to vote, and they're starting to get them to vote, well, sadly, is this new virus going to reduce the very elderly more, holders to convert to CBDCs and cell phones? These are all outcomes. These are all outcomes. Don't be shy, anyone. Yes, they do. They need numbers. Let's go, JP. No, it's more deeper than that. I get what you're saying. They want you to be distracted, but it goes way deeper than this. Do you think there'll be 50-minute cities? On the topic of 50-minute cities, it's not just the main topic on 50-minute cities was they're going to build 50-minute cities, which what everyone was confused about. They're not building 50-minute cities. CBDCs can become your 50-minute cities. And the difference between that is your CBDCs wouldn't work going beyond your proximity. You see, COVID was an interesting concept for them because it worked, but some people decided not to listen to the rules in COVID and so on. And then now going on to CBDCs, it's easier for them to mandate us to stay home because your money wouldn't work outside your door when you're living on CBDCs. And that, it's been proven many times, with China being the first one talking about expiry dates on CBDCs, but also a proximity on your CBDCs was the Thai party in Thailand, where they talked about whoever voted for this Thai party gets 10,000 baht in Thailand money. And, now they decide to start giving up this 10,000 baht, but there's obviously a catch. There's no such thing as free money. Whoever's getting this 10,000 baht in Thailand, a lot of people signed up for it. It's CBDC in 10,000 baht, where it expires in 6 months if you don't use this money, and it works 4 kilometers away from your house. So this is just basically what it is. And even the idea of 50-minute cities, they can just code it where, you can't go beyond a certain proximity because your money doesn't work in general. So they will create you your own 50-minute city if they wanted to. Your own 15-minute basically prison cell. It's way more complicated than that. Well, I'm a citizen over here and I did it the right way. And when you see this happening, it's not a good feeling. Those gates look like 2 men who created the fraudulent foundation. Nothing more than a bunch of freaks, yeah. But no, JP, I agree with you as well. There's probably more to the story as well. There's always more to the story. I agree with you as well, JP. These are all just perspectives and outcomes. But the beginning parts were all based on factual information regarding the World Bank and so on. But the rest regarding immigrations, just personal perspectives. But yeah, your perspectives could be right as well. You never know. There's always more to the story as well. But the other part where it's easy to influence people, it's incredibly easy to influence people. Incredibly easy. It's way more complicated than that. Yeah. But yeah, JP, yeah, honestly, you're right as well. Now, one more thing. On the topic of everybody moving away from digital payments from cash to Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay. On the topic of Apple Pay, Apple's NFC update enables USDC payments on iPhones. Boost crypto adoption. Apple is about to change mobile payments with the release of its secure element, an NFC chip, to third-party developers. This would enable, among others, the blockchain-based feature of Circle USDC stablecoin on iPhones. It's not just Circle's USDC stablecoin, but a lot of cryptocurrencies can be processed. Circle's CEO, Jeremy, outlined how critically important this move was for him and expressed his optimism over the mass adoption of USDC. Apple's Wallet app and Apple Pay were allowed to leverage NFC on iPhones, but that has changed with the latest update, which now allows point-of-sale systems to connect directly with iPhones. This will allow blockchain-based payments in the safe environment of an iPhone. Secondly, it makes possible for merchants to receive USDC payments directly from iPhone users. As such, the options for payments are very wide-ranging, expanding use cases beyond USDC. Moreover, the potential for USDC payments is just the beginning. Apple's decision to open up access to its NFC chip and secure element impacts not only stablecoins like USDC and ERC, but also NFT tokens for tickets, certificates, and other digital assets. So it's not just USDC, but they're starting. This broader application highlights the growing fusion between traditional technology and blockchain solutions. Significantly, this development underscores major steps towards broader crypto adoptions and everyday transactions. Going back to the COVID scenario where they made everybody go to Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay from cash, fast forward to 2024, Apple Pay is now doing blockchain payments. With high performance, low frequency blockchain networks, low fee blockchain networks becoming more common, the pathway for USDC payments in retail and service industries is increasingly clear. They're also doing CBDCs as well in India. Furthermore, this update concedes with similar moves in crypto, such as MetaMask partnerships with MasterCard and banks to launch their self-custody debit wallets, which I reviewed yesterday as well, regarding MetaMask. Implications for the crypto market. In addition, the timing of Apple's reveal is quite important. Financial institutions like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley's endorsements could have a domino effect on causes that the altcoin market to rebound. Thus, so far, institutional acceptance of cryptocurrency products could support blockchain-based solutions in the conventional financial ecosystem even more. Apple's decision to open its NFC chip to third-party developers is a milestone for crypto payments. This development enhances USDC adoption and strengthens the integration of blockchain technology with conventional business practices. The potential impacts on altcoin market is another layer to watch closely as the crypto evolves. So obviously they made everybody go to Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, and so on during the COVID times, and fast on 2024, they're doing CBDC testings on Apple Pay and in India, and also now they're doing on Google Pay, so on as well. Amazon Pay as well. Amazon Pay is doing CBDC testings. Amazon Pay is doing CBDC testings. Just put that in perspective. But fast on to today, they're also doing essentially crypto payments as well on NFC chips on Apple coming near you. So, if you enjoyed this live show, drop a follow, drop a like, and tune into it every single night. This has been episode 129, but for some odd reason, it says 127, episode 127 on X, but on YouTube, it says 129. So I got to fix that. But this has been episode 129. Every night, you can tune into this live show. 11:25 p.m. onwards UK time. So 11:30 if you tune in, you're in the live show. 11:30 p.m. UK time if you tune in, you're in the live show. If you enjoyed this live show, tune into it every single night on X or YouTube. I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, things that are important for you to know that the world is evolving quite rapidly. And also we do live Q&As as well. So if you enjoyed this live show, which is called CMF Live Show, stands for Crypto Miles Family. We also have our own Telegram group as well, which anybody's more than welcome to join. And everybody's very respectful. The link on the Telegram group is on X, if you're watching this on X, or on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, on my profiles. And I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors as well. If you want to store your crypto assets safely, use Tangent Wallet is an option. Tangent Wallet is our sponsor of this live show, and use code CryptoMiles for 10% off. If you use code CryptoMiles, you get 10% off your new Tangent wallets. And also check out BingX Exchange and sign up to them. If you sign up to them and do your KYC, you get 100K, you get 100 USDT just for being a member of this live show and signing up to BingX Exchange, who's also the official partner of Chelsea Football Club, but also a partner of me. So if you enjoyed this live show, drop a follow, drop a like, and tune into it every single night. Good night, Miles. And all CMF. The Amish people are all Trump people. You want to see their videos? Too funny. Let's go, JP. JP, see you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Miles, since everything is coordinated, was USDT put in place for a reason? Was it to buy time? Could be. Could be. Good night, Miles, and good night, Miles, and the rest of the CMF family. See you tomorrow, Frankie brother. Same timing as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Mike, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, everyone. Thanks, Miles. See you tomorrow. Orphan, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thanks again for another brilliant live stream. Let's go, Thompson. Thompson, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. And we talked about on this live show, we talked about the topics of Apple and NFC payments in terms of cryptocurrencies. We talked about JP Morgan and Tether going against each other. We talked about Ripple's perspective from their top lawyer on is there going to be an SEC appeal. We talked about on this live show regarding XRP details that was just released from Binance as well, a study test they did on it. We talked about Binance getting a green light to open up back in India, and they got a green light yesterday for Brazil as well. We talked about the state of Wisconsin's Bitcoin holdings, Michigan's Bitcoin holdings in terms of pension funds, and New Jersey in terms of pension funds going towards Bitcoin holdings as well. We talked about the new SEC green-lighted MSTX new ETF that's linked to MicroStrategy. On tonight's live show, we went through that as well. We talked about the Fed member coming up with their perspective, an official Fed member answering the question of, are we going to have rate cuts? Is it possible on rate cuts before fourth quarter is what they're estimating it at. We also talked about IBM and their new expansions in Malaysia. We talked about Google, Nevada, Apple also doing expansions and essentially in terms of AI technology in Malaysia as well as Singapore. We also talked about on this live show regarding the majority of institutional investors holding or have increased their positions on blockchain. So we went through a mixture of topics on tonight's live show as usual. Carol, see you tomorrow sometimes usual as well. Take care, everyone. Thompson, take care. See you tomorrow. Thompson, let's go. See you tomorrow sometimes usual. Good night. Stormy, see you tomorrow sometimes usual. Good night, everyone. Denise, see you tomorrow sometimes usual. Great show. Thank you, Miles. Susie, let's go. See you tomorrow sometimes usual. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. CMF, see you tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. See you tomorrow, same time as usual.